board pulling in Illustrator into your Photoshop. Okay, so first of all, I'm in Illustrator right now. I'm not in Photoshop. So let me just get back to my screen. Okay, so I'm going to do a file new, and it's going to be the size of the illustration I want to do in Photoshop. Okay, so 14 by 11 is fine. Then I'm going to grab one of my mood boards, which is not the right ratio. And I'm going to throw that into my new document. I'm going to move all my objects around to create an attractive layout for my new Photoshop board, because I'm going to pull all of this information into Photoshop. I find if I've got things that are clipped, it's usually faster in Illustrator, and a lot of times I will already have the mood board, so I will just arrange it in my Illustrator. You could also certainly do this all in Photoshop as well. Okay, once you got something you like, you can select everything, Control C. Head over to Photoshop. And again, I'm going to create a new document, and it's going to be custom. (11 by 14). Okay. Then I'm going to Control V, and I'm going to do it as a smart object. So what that does is smart objects within Adobe basically copy your original file from Illustrator into the Photoshop file. So I can't go in and directly manipulate this once it's in Photoshop. I can make it bigger or smaller, but I can double click it and it'll open up in Illustrator. So you basically have to do a 1-2 step if you want to adjust this part of it, right? Because then I can, if you double click that as a smart object, it'll open up your original Illustrator file. Okay, same thing with Photoshop files. You can open them up in Illustrator and they won't be rasterized. They will be Photoshop files. And then if you need to edit them, you can double click in Illustrator and it'll open up in Photoshop. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Then I want to use the Photoshop tools that I like, that I prefer, like if I'm doing my text. Head over to our FX tools. Can throw a bevel emboss on it. I could do a drop shadow at that point. And I just like the control I have with the Photoshop filters better than the Illustrator ones. So I do a lot of layout and shape-based stuff in Illustrator, and then I will throw the whole thing into Photoshop once I have something I like. And then I can put in a background of some kind. Let's see, what color do I want to do my background? Maybe a nice lilac-y. And that will. And then all of the, actually maybe not, because then I lose my swatch. Let's make that a little lighter, pinker. There we go. Better. Oh, actually, I don't like that color. Let's try. This is where it gets like designer time. Okay. Not bad. I'll take that. Okay. And then the final step would be heading back to your Illustrator and pulling in things like your technicals, right? Because again, I wouldn't do technicals in Photoshop. I would do them in Illustrator. So I'm going to grab that one. I clip technical, Control V. Again, it's a smart object. I just would make sure that the layer was on top. Okay, so this is where things get a lot more fun because you can use the best capabilities of both of the softwares together really effectively. And the strengths of each one can be maximized. And once again, if I needed to edit that technical, I would double click it. It would open up in Illustrator. And then the next step of this will be when we move into InDesign, which uses both to do books, multiple page documents, or posters. Okay, so that is kind of a lightning round way to put together a very fast mood board / design board using both Photoshop and Illustrator.